All right, guys, you decide. It's our been talking about it for quite some time that we're going to take you behind the scenes of all the things that it takes to get you all caught up all the way through election night. This is normally what we do on Fox Local, behind the news. But tonight's different, obviously. Tonight is special. We have a whole team of people who are working to keep this, keep you informed, keep everything up to speed. And among those people, we brought in the experts.
I've already had my pizza, Bill, and I'm ready to go. I'm all set.
That's a thing,
my
right?
election night pizza, yes.
That's a thing. Election night pizza, you like get a little bit of food and then kind of keep things moving.
Absolutely. Now I'm all rearing to go.
So for years, you've kind of loved this and followed through the whole process, breaking it down. So we're going to go in, talk about that kind of journey to 270.
Sure. That's the magic
just
number,
follow it
270 electoral votes, right.
Okay, so the polls in a lot of places are now closed, including Pennsylvania at 8 o'clock.
Right.
So now we start waiting.
And it always seems to take longer than you think it should. Quite frankly, with the level of technology that we have nowadays, one would think that when the polls close, those machines would be able to have a couple of buttons pushed and magically the total numbers would appear. Never actually works that way for a variety of reasons, but it is what it is, so we wait.
All right, so we're going to follow updates, but one of the other things that kind of delays, and guys, the reason we're doing this is we're showing you everything in real time as we kind of follow and track. One of the things that delays results is kind of long lines, like you have to be in line. Wait, we're getting
News,
updates.
AP
right.
just called Andy Kim for New Jersey Senate.
Okay.
Associated Press just called it. Polls just closed 2 minutes ago, and Associated Press, we just got the AP alert on our computers that Andy Kim was just called the winner. Associated Press is projecting that Andy Kim has won the Senate race from New Jersey.
Okay.
What's interesting about
Abby Miller, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes, what's interesting
senior executive producer.
What's interesting about that, among other things, is that New Jersey, for the first time, and Steve Keeley knows New Jersey like the back of his hand, for the first time in many, many years, New Jersey now has a U.S. Senator from South Jersey. I can tell you, as somebody who's covered politics in this region for many, many years, it seemed like the New Jersey senators, whether it be Robert Menendez or Cory Booker, their idea of the extreme southern end of New Jersey was Trenton. And you never saw them in South Jersey. So for folks who live in South Jersey, this is good news to have someone from their neck of the woods representing the state.
Guys, let me show you something real quick, because
More breaking
over
news. Hang on,
there,
Bill.
managing editor Megan Duncan, who is updating, and the reason I was showing you is because that's the way everything is kind of working around here as we get information up to the second. So what's going on?
Associated Press has just called the Democrats, Lisa Blunt Rochester, to win the election for U.S. Senate in Delaware. That just came in as well.
Okay, so Jersey, Delaware called almost immediately.
No surprises there, right? These are deep blue states, and so when the polls close within minutes, it doesn't take many numbers of actual votes counted to know that they will win the race, and indeed they have.
I like the ability to kind of show people behind the scenes how these things are happening.
Sausage is
People
being
think
made as we speak.
there's like this whole high-tech thing going on, and it's really us yelling from one office to the other.
In line.
Another thing that we were just talking about, and delays potentially in races being called or information coming in, is what are we looking at?
This is East Hampton, Burlington County. These are voters that are still waiting in line. If you were in line by 8 o'clock, you can vote. And this line, some of these voters have told us they've been waiting in line for 3.5 to 4 hours. Okay, and so they're still waiting to go in to vote.
Right. And once they're in line, obviously they have to be allowed to vote. But with this type of line, you're saying 3 hours, 4 hours.
Yes, so people who are they might have gotten in line at 7:45, they might not be voting for a couple of hours. The people we talked to at about 5 o'clock had been in line at 3.5 hours at that point.
All right, you want to take a walk?
Sure, let's
Guys,
go.
come with us. We're going to take a walk because part of what we're doing in showing you the behind the scenes, this is everybody in the newsroom working, watching, computer monitors. We're all kind of walking and looking over our shoulders as we get any sort of update of what's taking place. So you have it all set up in here, the electoral map.
Yeah, and we're going to actually do things a little bit differently. I guess we can go in this way. We're going to show you kind of where things actually stand. Let our camera folks come right on through here, and then we will be right behind them.
It's teamwork.
Yes.
Get this all going.
It's all a choreographed ballet here.
Right? Well-oiled machine. We
Well,
had this
yes.
all ready to go.
So these are the states on our big map here that have already been called. And what we see here is pretty much, as far as I can see, yeah, just about exactly what we would expect. Remember, folks, that about 43 or so of the 50 states in these United States are pretty much a sure bet from one party or the other. And so what we've seen so far, and what this map reflects, again, 270 electoral votes needed to win, what this map reflects is states that have already been called. So, for example, no surprise, Democrats take, and then when I say Democrats, Kamala Harris takes Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. That's Maryland right there. Meanwhile, Republicans, that is Donald Trump, called already for Florida, South Carolina, Alabama and Mississippi, Oklahoma, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia. No surprises in any of these races. So you'll see this and it says, wow, look, 95 electoral votes for Donald Trump, just 35 for Kamala Harris. Don't get too upset or too excited about that number, because as it now stands, that's exactly what we would have expected. Okay. The real excitement comes when we get something that we didn't expect, right? We've got a number of states. We're going to see if we can do this here. The so-called swing states, the 7 states that we think are really up for grabs, and whoever wins the majority of those states is likely to be the winner. So Pennsylvania is one of those states, North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Arizona, and Nevada. Those 7 states are going to really be what determines the winner of this race tonight.
Okay, so again, and these will update, and at some point we're going to go back out because we're going to talk to Chris O'Connell, who is at one of the vote counting locations. But at the end of the day, they go into it 216, 220, like already set.
Right. We talked about this earlier. Basically, based on the 43 states that we are virtually sure who will win, it's Kamala Harris 226 electoral votes, Donald Trump 219. So then the question becomes, what combination of those 7 swing states would get you to 270, which of course is the magic number. So just as an example, we don't know this will happen, just as an example, if Kamala Harris will win the so-called blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, that would get her to exactly 270 electoral votes. Likewise, there are various combinations that Donald Trump could win, including, I think, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia would get him to about 270. So the bottom line is there's a number of combinations here, but it's the 7 swing states that we're really paying attention to. If any of these candidates lose a state they should have won somewhere along the line, now we've got some real news. Now it's wide open, because that means things have changed dramatically from 4 years ago.
First one we're watching right now is North Carolina.
Yeah,
their
polls
are
close
coming
at 7:30. They are apparently a relatively fast counting state for a variety of reasons. We might have expected a 7 o'clock closing time for the polling in Georgia, and they count relatively fast, but there's been some shenanigans at some of the polling places, a bomb threat apparently at one site that had to be closed down for a little bit. So there could be some delays in Georgia, but I'm going to be fascinated with North Carolina. 4 years ago, Donald Trump won this state by 1.3 percentage points, a razor-thin margin, but Donald Trump took this state 4 years ago. We'll see what happens tonight. That could be the first major either victory for Trump or a big upset win for Kamala Harris. That is potentially the first one we're going to see tonight that's going to really mean something to us.
We're going to take a walk. I'm going to let you do
You got it.
this. As you know, Bruce is serious because the sleeves.
This is my official serious mode, right? The sleeves are rolled up, right?
He's ready to go, breaking down counties and things like that. We're going to continue to talk to Bruce, get his expert analysis. I'm holding this for the cameras making their way through as we go on back into the newsroom. So as I pointed out, we've got reporters spread all throughout the area who are giving us updates on various things taking place. Guys, should I go in here and talk to them? Talk to Chris? I can go in here? Knock, knock. All right. So, coming in here, you can see our various reporters spread out through the different areas. And Chris O'Connell is who we're going to speak to, because, Chris, you're at the vote counting location.
No, that's what I mean. That's why I'm...
That's right. We're in Northeast Philadelphia, Bill. Take a deep breath. We are now across the finish line. The polls are now closed in Pennsylvania, and now the counting begins. We're here in Northeast Philadelphia at the elections warehouse right off of Roosevelt Boulevard, where actually early this morning, right after the polls opened, some of the counting actually started. Of the 190,000 mail-in and absentee ballots that were mailed in before Election Day, those ballots have been counted all day. Let's go in right now. You can see probably some of those election workers doing just that. But what happens now that the polls are closed? We anticipate over the next hour, law enforcement from across the city, Philadelphia police, Philadelphia sheriff's deputies, with transporting those hard drives and paper records of the 1,700 voting districts across the city. They'll also be delivering the mail-in ballots from those 35 drop boxes across the city. Once again, 190,000 absentee ballots are being counted. We do anticipate some of those numbers, those early numbers, to be released of those mail-in ballots fairly soon. So we may start getting some results in the city of Philadelphia. As you also alluded to, late tonight there has been a development when presidential candidate Donald Trump saying that there has been massive cheating in the city of Philadelphia and law enforcement was on the way. Well, local election officials were quick to refute those claims, as well as Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. He's saying the only claims of massive cheating are coming from the Trump campaign. Also, no specifics were given about those claims from the Trump campaign. So what we can tell you now is those votes from all across the city are being brought in here. We can tell you 200 media credentials were given out here to observers. There are political observers who are allowed inside to watch this process. 2 observers from each political party and 1 observer from each candidate are allowed to observe. But once again, it's anticipated to be a long night. Just how long remains to be seen. Guys?
Chris, paint a picture for me, because in the past there have been concerns about the safety, security of those locations. You talk about allegations that have been thrown around. That's a really secure area. Like, you guys had to go through multiple checkpoints and things to get there.
Yeah, I don't think I could share this. Here's my credential I have on me. This is new this year. They gave us election credentials. Keep in mind, this processing center was at the Philadelphia Convention Center 4 years ago, and we saw what happened there. There were some security concerns here. Here in Northeast Philadelphia, this is a very secure building. They actually have 1 lane of Roosevelt Boulevard blocked off. You have to show not only your election credential, but a photo ID to get in here. You have to be signed in and then scan your badge once you get in there. So things have stepped up here significantly in terms of election security and protection.
All right, man, we'll check back with you in a little bit. Appreciate the update. Thanks, Chris.
He's there.
And as you see, we're in technical operations. You can see all the folks who are handling things, walking back out into the newsroom, behind the scenes, giving you updates. I believe we have a look. Bucks County is continuing their count. We're going to start getting updates from things that are going on in Bucks County and several different areas. As different states start to get called, we will continue to update you. Going to take you around the newsroom. We're only 13 minutes into what is going to be a night of analysis, conversation, meeting the folks here in the newsroom who are keeping everything going. What's going on?
Delaware County's vote is right there too.
So there are streams set up. There are webcams throughout the area for people to be able to kind of follow up on the things that are taking place. So we've got that for you. We've got more guests. We've got analysis and more. This is our Fox Local Behind the News election evening coverage. Let's take our first break and we will come back and continue on. Stay with us. It's election night. We are in the Fox 9 newsroom, taking you around, letting you see the behind the scenes of everything that takes place. We're following obviously all of the races, and as we get information immediately, we will share it with you. You've already seen that as we're yelling across the newsroom at each other. Guys, anybody who watches Fox Local knows Cam. Normally Cam's Corner, part of our web team, but to kind of following things that are online, and what we're seeing.
Yes, so everyone in the area, they want to know just kind of like who's currently ahead, who's in the lead, who's winning. We, of course, just got the news about Andy Kim. He defeated Curtis Bashaw in New Jersey's Senate race, and we have a bunch of information on him. You know, this is the third term that he is, in, and defeated his Republican opponent, Curtis Bashaw. Also making history, Lisa Blunt Rochester. She is Delaware's first black female senator, and that is just big news. She previously made history as the first black female congressperson when she was elected to the House in 2016. And so people, they're trying to figure out what's happening, who's winning, and as those results come in, we do have an article on fox29.com that kind of lays out, what's going to be happening and what timing is like.
What's interesting about this, and folks, and we've got a team, a web team that is working on all of this, but you see more and more, and I guess Fox Local actually is an example of this. People are looking for that information online. They're searching it online. They're following it on social media.
Yes.
And what have you. So you
have
guys got to be up to date, like
having
up to the
watch
minute.
Parties and just kind of like seeing these results coming in and from Fox 29, and just kind of like they want to know. They want to know. They're with their friends and with their family members, and they're just kind of sitting around waiting like everyone else. But we're the ones kind of, going in on it and trying to figure out who is going to be the winner of these elections and these races.
And going in on it for the next however many hours.
I know, yeah.
Look at all the looks, the intense looks and focus of everybody is here. We will come back and talk to Cam in just a little bit. We're going to go check in with our Jen Lee. I'm going to ask Aaron, can we talk to Jen over at Cam 10, or do I need to go into the control room?
You can probably get her at Cam 10. Let me see.
We can talk to her at Cam 10? All right, guys, let's go talk to Jen Lee, giving them a chance to kind of get a pause walking around with the Steadicam. So let's talk to Jen. Now, Jen, you're in Pittsburgh at the McCormick headquarters?
Yes, we are. We are at the Fairmont Hotel, and doors open to his supporters at 7:30, and you can see the rooms are really filling up, and this is going to be, a long night. Drinks are flowing. There's plenty of food, but these are all people in the Pittsburgh area. That's where Dave McCormick is from, born and raised, who are here to support him tonight, watch the election results pour in throughout the evening, and we will certainly be here to catch those moments here at the McCormick campaign. So the 59-year-old, he spent his election day going to various polling locations in Pittsburgh as well as the Pittsburgh suburbs. We know that he was there to be by his wife's side as she casted her ballot. I found this interesting. McCormick actually decided to vote by mail, but he dropped his ballot in the box here in Allegheny County last week. So he was done with voting today, just going out and talking with his supporters and thanking them as they were heading to the polls. Now, McCormick, he has branded himself as a businessman. He believes that he's going to be able to exercise fiscal responsibility. Some of the jabs that we've heard him throw towards Casey, he has said that Casey is a career politician, and a career politician who he says, frankly, has not been able to deliver results throughout his campaign messaging. He said he believes he will be able to. And another point that was made during the debates, he did say that he believes in Trump's plan, the mass deportation plan, in the country, as well as border security. So a lot of various messaging that has happened throughout this campaign season, and we'll certainly be here to give you another live look here at the McCormick campaign. Bill?
All right, Jen, we'll check in with you in just a little bit. Thank you so much. We'll check back in with us. We'll be right back. behind the news look on election night here in the Fox 29 newsroom. Everybody, again, closely watching all of the poll results. When we come back, we're going to go back into the studio in just a minute with Bruce Gordon, breaking down some interesting information that we now know about some of the Philadelphia results. As you can see, people continuing to, right now it's kind of a waiting game. You're waiting, watching as polls continue to close. That's what a lot of this is, making sure we have all the updated information. Let's go into the studio because we're going to hear from our Fox 29 anchors giving you an update on all the things that are taking place so far. So stay with us. Jason and Sheba are going to get you this update here on Fox 29 and Fox Local, and we'll be right back after they give you this report.
Now you decide. This is a Fox 29 local elections special update. Polls in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware just closed about 30 minutes ago. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jason Martinez.
I'm Sheba Russell. That means we are getting our first look at the votes coming in the race for U.S. Senate in New Jersey. The Associated Press calling the race for Democratic Congressman Andy Kim, beating Republican hotel developer Curtis Bashaw 53 to 46% here.
And in Delaware's U.S. Senate race, the AP calling it for Democrat Lisa Blunt-Rochester over GOP challenger Eric Hansen. Blunt-Rochester now with this vote, and we'll show that to you in a moment, there becomes the first black person and first woman to represent Delaware in the Senate.
In the race for president, we'll have those results for you in a moment here in Pennsylvania. Those are still coming in 72% to 27%, with 8% of the estimated votes counted. The polls again closing just about a half hour ago, so these results are still continuing to flow in. The battleground state here of Pennsylvania could determine who wins the White House.
And in the race for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, incumbent Democratic Bob Casey Jr. and GOP challenger Dave McCormick still too close to call, according to Fox News. Bob Casey with 71% of the estimated votes counted there to McCormick's 27%. Our Jennifer Lee in Pittsburgh covering the McCormick campaign. Let's start with Jeff Cole, though, up in Scranton covering the Casey camp. Jeff.
Yeah, this is where Casey we'll see him at some point here, of course. But I would say this, these are obviously early numbers, but we did hear a cheer go up when the broadcast organization behind us on the big screen put up some numbers and Bob Casey was in the lead. Let me have you take a look at what the party looks like here. Bob Casey is Pennsylvania's senior senator. He's nearly a household name here, having served as Auditor General, as state treasurer, and 3 terms in the U.S. Senate. This, though, is his toughest re-election ever, and his supporters, though, are looking to young folks to help him out.
I think the younger voters, they're still not sure where they are, and I think that's where we're probably seeing where some of the changes are. And I'm hoping that, by the time they get to the poll today, they have an idea exactly what they're voting for, realize that this depends on, their future going forward.
That local political leader says she doesn't want to lose Casey's seniority in the U.S. Senate. Certainly more to come from here throughout the night, but so far they're feeling okay. Back to you folks.
All right, Jeff, thank you. We want to get to Jennifer Lee right now in Pittsburgh. Jennifer.
Hey, Sheba. The supporters for Dave McCormick are now here. We're at the Fairmont, and you can just take a look. They are starting to crowd the room. Doors opened at 7:30, and it looks like the long line is still going here through security. Now, let's take you to some pictures and video of how McCormick was spending his election day. He went to various polling locations. He was speaking with his voters and thanking his supporters, all within the Pittsburgh area. The 59-year-old actually voted by mail last week and dropped it off at the Allegheny County office building. Throughout the campaign season, he has branded himself a businessman who will rein in government spending and criticize Senator Casey throughout for being a career politician. Now, back out here live, we are again at the Fairmont for the Dave McCormick Election Night Watch Party. It is certainly a beat, but will it stay that way? We'll let you know.
Jennifer, thank you. And we will be back at the 26-minute mark every hour throughout the night with more local updates and, of course, the 10 o'clock news.
Things changing by the minute, so we'll have the very latest voting numbers for you in about an hour. And check fox29.com as well for the latest. We'll see you then.
And as you can see, guys, giving you the behind-the-scenes look. They just got finished giving you the update of all the things that are taking place on Fox 29. We're here on Fox 29 and Fox Local. Coming back in just a minute, we're going to break down more of the electoral map. Going to talk to Steve Keeley, get reports from all of our reporters throughout the area. So stay with us on Fox Local. We'll be right back. About 8:33 here in I'm Bill Anderson on Fox Local. You know, we're taking you behind the scenes as we keep everything updated on this election night. So slowly we're starting to get information from various areas. As Bruce pointed out, at this point, polls have closed in a couple of battleground states, and we're to wait for information coming in from them. And then you're seeing me kind of look around because I'm checking monitors that are spread out all throughout the newsroom, getting updates. So we're waiting on additional information from North Carolina. We're starting to get some results coming in from Pennsylvania at 8 o'clock. And so we will continue to follow that. But the news that broke very early on as we got started around 8 o'clock was Andy Kim's victory in New Jersey. And our Steve Keeley is there. Hey, Steve.
Bill, it's officially called by the AP and the New York Times, and we were trying to find out if Curtis Bashaw called to concede. We don't know that for sure yet, but we're told that Andy will greet his rather raucous crowd here in Cherry Hill, where he went to high school, at 8:45. So this is not a big surprise. He was expected to win, ahead in the polls by 16 percentage points. And again, this will be a first in New Jersey for many reasons, and a first for the country as well, because we have not had any South Jersey representation as a U.S. Senator ever, and the country has not had a descendant of Korean immigrants ever in the U.S. Senate. So Andy Kim breaking ground on a couple of ways there. And here in South Jersey, they will always remember Andy Kim, because not only that, he kind of broke the rules of the Democratic power brokers and the machine, because they have what they call a county line, meaning when you run for office, you go to each of New Jersey's 21 counties and you basically beg. And in some cases, you can buy, if you have a lot of money like John Corzine and Phil Murphy, you can donate a lot of money to the party, and you can almost buy the backing of the county leadership when it comes to politics, and you get first in the line. So when somebody comes in and they just want to vote all Democrat and they go down the line, you basically get that vote, because they don't even want to look at the other names running. And Andy challenged that in court and was successful. So that's the end of the county line. And he did that because initially Phil Murphy, the governor's wife, was going to run. And he said, hey, wait a second, that's getting special treatment if you get that county line. And she was getting a lot of the county endorsements, but then Andy started getting some. And Tammy Murphy, the governor's wife, decided to pull out. She said she didn't want a nasty Democratic primary. So that's where we are right now, Bill. Andy Kim expected to win this race, and he has. It's been a long time since New Jersey ever has gone Republican when it comes to the U.S. Senate, more than 50 years, and it's not going to change this year either. Bill?
And we will continue to check in throughout the evening, and whenever he takes the stage or has additional comments to make, we will come back and check in. Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate it. This is our Fox Local, Fox 29 You Decide special, taking you behind the news and behind the scenes on Election Day. I'm Bill Anderson, and we'll be right back. Fox Local, You Decide, taking you behind the news on Election Day. This is what we do on Fox Local, but today we decided to give you kind of an inside look as more and more information comes in. I told you before, when Bruce rolls up the sleeves, things are getting serious. Right? This is legit. So we're starting to get some information in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting, at least potentially. So let's start out by talking about what we see up here. Reporting, 14.6%. Back in the day, you used to see this percentage, and that represented the percentage of the total number of precincts that had reported in. Some precincts would have more voters than others, so that number wasn't always as accurate as it might be. What this represents now in this new era is the percentage of what they estimate the total vote will be based on a number of analytics. So they think about, the experts that is, think about 14.6% of the vote is in the city of Philadelphia, right down here. Okay. Within Pennsylvania, this is the Pennsylvania race for the presidency. Look at the margin now for Kamala Harris, 99,000 and change to 13,000 and change for Donald Trump. That is about an 86,000 vote margin. Now, if this is about 1/7 of the total, we would expect that we could, again, ballpark numbers here, take that 86,000 margin, multiply it by 7 if these numbers held consistent, and now you're at a margin coming out of Philadelphia of almost exactly 600,000 votes. If that holds, if that were true, that would be massively important, because remember, in 2016, Hillary Clinton won Philadelphia over Donald Trump by about 475,000 votes. Okay. 4 years later, Joe Biden beat Trump by about 471,000 votes. The idea from Democrats this time around was if they could bump that margin up to around 500,000 or so, they would feel pretty good. This could be as much as 600,000 margin. Again, we've heard about big turnout in the city. Could be as much as 600,000 vote margin for Kamala Harris if these numbers hold and if these estimates are right. If that's the case, that would be a massively big deal for Kamala Harris in her attempt to win Pennsylvania.
And that's what everyone said if you're talking about Vice President Harris winning Pennsylvania, stacking it up in Philadelphia as necessary.
Must rack up a huge margin there, absolutely. Now, by contrast, for example, let's go to Bucks County, right? Now, look, big margin there, right? Basically a 2-to-1 margin. No one expects that Kamala Harris is going to beat Donald Trump by a 2-to-1 margin in Bucks County. So, about 1/9 of the votes, more or less, are now in Bucks County. But as in often the case, we don't know where in Bucks County necessarily these votes are coming from. Like every purple area, it's not necessarily a series of purple communities, it's deep red communities and deep blue communities, and when you add it all up, it becomes a purple county. So I wouldn't get, if I was a Kamala Harris supporter, I wouldn't get all that excited about this seemingly big margin, because we don't know where those are coming from yet, and we certainly don't expect Bucks County to go 2-to-1 for anybody.
But Bucks is a lot more divided and diverse, so it's easier then to take the numbers as you were in Philadelphia, because the expectation is just based on the registration differences that the number may hold, or it's more likely to hold in Philadelphia than it is in a place like Bucks.
Absolutely. There's not a chance in the world that Kamala Harris beats Donald Trump in Bucks County by a 2-to-1 margin. Okay. Not a chance.
You're just telling us that they called Illinois for Vice President Harris. That goes back to that map you were talking about. Again, not a surprise.
Now, there's Illinois right here. And if that's the case, then she's up to 71 electoral votes. Again, no surprises in any of this. Again, if you're a Kamala Harris supporter, you're excited she won Illinois. Absolutely no surprise. Illinois has been a solidly blue state for quite a number of cycles in a row, so no surprise there. So far, none of this map represents a surprising victory when a candidate thought they were going to lose, but oh my gosh, look, we've actually pulled the state out. No surprises yet tonight.
It's interesting, and we've talked off camera about the whole electoral college, and opinions vary on electoral college. That's another special. Like, we'll do that.
I made my views on it very clear.
Right. Yeah. Like, opinions vary. But it is interesting that you have all of this map, and you've got people who are voting all day, and we're reporting, and everybody's reporting. And at the end of the day, you're just waiting for those 7. Yeah. You know, and those 7 could go a week out for all that we know, unless there's just large margins that nobody really expects to happen.
Yeah, and it is, again, a winner-take-all system. Outside of Maine and Nebraska, it is a winner-take-all system, and so for all intents and purposes, millions of Democrats in Texas, millions of Republicans in California, their vote for president is essentially meaningless. If you lose by 1 vote in the popular vote in that state, you get no electoral votes, and your vote essentially was meaningless, at least at the presidential level. I kind of like the way Maine does it and Nebraska does it. They give 2 electoral votes for the overall winner, that's the so-called Senate seats, and then congressional districts represent each. So in Maine, for example, Donald Trump will likely lose Maine. In fact, it's very likely he'll lose Maine, but he's likely to win one of the congressional districts, so he'll get 1 electoral vote. Conversely, in Nebraska, Kamala Harris is almost certain to win 1 of the 3 congressional districts there, so she'll get 1 electoral vote. Donald Trump will get 4. So at least it's not a winner-take-all. At least there's some sense of, I did a pretty good job in this state. Give me something for the fact that my voters were out there.
So we're still watching for North Carolina, Georgia. Those are already closed. We're getting close, going on 9 o'clock. So we're going to start to see more closed, more reports coming in. Chris O'Connell's at the vote counting location. Yeah. But again, until something surprises us with one of these battleground states, we're just kind of going along.
We're in status quo. Yeah. And frankly, as these places close, as these polling places close in the various states, if you have a quick call, that tells you right there that everyone knew how this was going to go right from the start. Right. States like Delaware and New Jersey, for example, the polls close at 8 o'clock. At 8:01, a chimp could have called.
And it says, with 1% reporting, we are now calling.
The first 5 votes have been counted, and it's over. And we knew that going in. So again, no surprises yet. We're waiting for the surprise.
Wait with us. We're going to continue to keep you updated here on Fox Local and take you behind the scenes. Going to go back out into the newsroom, talk to some more of the folks, see where we are with the stats, give Bruce some more time to analyze these numbers. I know he's going to be watching Philly close now. Philly, Bucks, it's all starting to come in. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is our Fox Local You Decide special. I'm Bill Anderson in the Fox 29 newsroom. We've been taking you around, getting you updated. And momentarily, we're going to go hear from Andy Kim as he addresses the crowd. But first, we want to go to our Jeff Cole, who's in Scranton at Bob Casey headquarters. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, doing there, Bill?
Doing well, man. What's the energy like there? How are people feeling?
All right, here you go. Sure. You know, I think very early returns here in the state of Pennsylvania. So we have seen some numbers, and the numbers were favorable for Casey over McCormick, and some cheers went up there. I do think people are feeling, reasonably good. These numbers are early. Harris is up in very early numbers in Pennsylvania, so hard to draw anything from it. I would say when we arrived here sort of much earlier in the day and throughout the afternoon here, I think you could get some sense of folks being somewhat tight, understandably somewhat anxious over what is incredibly a high-stakes race here. Of course, this is a senior senator from Pennsylvania, Bob Casey, 3 terms, looking for his 4th, and this has been a very tough race for him. Clearly, the most difficult and aggressive re-election campaign he's ever had to run. I'm going to step out of the way a little bit and have you look at what the party looks like here. Typical of any campaign headquarters, big TV showing us the results, and folks in support of Bob Casey here just sort of milling around, having some drinks, talking to each other, and trying to figure out what's going to happen here. Again, these are really early results, certainly, and it is unlikely, most folks who are knowledgeable about this, that we won't quite know what's happened when the night finally fades away. But so far, I would say folks are feeling generally upbeat here at the Casey headquarters in his hometown of Scranton.
Numbers that may actually apply or have some impact there as well. Your good friend, Bruce Gordon, was just breaking down Philadelphia numbers that we saw, and at least initially now, the numbers look really solid in Philadelphia. That not only potentially benefits Vice President Harris, but also someone like Bob Casey, right?
No question about it. Casey needs, in essence, almost the same constituency, certainly, as Kamala Harris. What he has to turn blue PA for him. He has to run up his numbers in Philadelphia and in the collar counties around Philly. We've talked about so much during the campaign, Montco, Delco. Certainly Bucks is more purple, but he certainly needs to do well there. Chester County needs to do well there. And he also has to do well in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. These are Democratic counties, and he's got to run his numbers up there. He has to assume that McCormick, who has run an aggressive campaign, is going to be helped certainly by the top of the ticket and any popularity that Trump can bring to it. McCormick has been very well funded, and so he has run an aggressive campaign. So the Casey folks are looking for blue Pennsylvania, Philly, Pittsburgh, and the surrounding communities to help him get back to the U.S. Senate and keep the U.S. Senate, from their view, in the Democratic hands.
So is cautiously optimistic a fair assessment of how they're feeling there?
Yeah, what's the term they're using? Nauseously optimistic. That is the term that the Democrats have coined here. That they're optimistic and feeling maybe still a little queasy and possibly sick to their stomachs in what has been this aggressive race. Bob Casey, by the way, as you know, is an understated guy. This is not some guy who's going to come in here and do any kind of a stem winder sort of speech. I think his junior colleague in the Senate, Senator Fetterman, calls him mild thing. So I don't think we're going to see him come in here and rip it up. But obviously, if he wins this thing and he knows it by tonight and comes on this stage, he's certainly going to be a happy guy. He's had to work very, very hard to run this campaign. It's been a bruising effort here.
Well, and it has been interesting, Jeff, because as you said, he's a relatively soft-spoken, calm individual. But this race got a little heated. Like, there was some emotion between the two of them.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, McCormick in 2 debates, one in Harrisburg, one in Philadelphia, both times certainly just turned to Casey and said, "You're weak. You know, you've been in the Senate for 18 years. You haven't done anything. You've got nothing to show for it. And then he upped it and said, listen, you've been in public office nearly 30 years. Remember that Bob Casey was the state treasurer and he was the auditor general. He's been in public office a long time when you add the 3 terms in the U.S. Senate as well. So that's what McCormick was hammering at, suggesting that he hadn't done enough in public office. And Casey turned to McCormick and said, oh, is that right? Well, my sense is that you lied to the voters as to where you lived, suggesting that McCormick was really, had spent most of his adult life, Casey claimed, in Connecticut and not in Pennsylvania, the place of his birth. It became, I think, in some sense, a personal campaign, a brutal one. You saw in the debates how hard they were willing to go at each other, and the raw nature of the ads that ran as well. I mean, Casey accused McCormick of being, in essence, supportive of the Chinese, claiming that he invested in companies that made fentanyl when he was leading the big hedge fund Bridgewater. So those were the kind of claims made against him, and then McCormick turned right around and simply said that Casey was a do-nothing U.S. Senator for 3 terms. At one point, McCormick, during the debate, turned to Casey and said, listen, you know what? Don't you preach to me about my career and my service to this country, because you haven't accomplished enough. And I remember Casey turning into McCormick and saying, and here you are preaching to me. I'm not questioning your service to this country. I'm questioning some of the decisions you made in your personal and in your business life. That was really the tone of this very rough campaign.
Yeah, a little bit seemingly out of character for them. All right, Jeff, now we wait. So the returns so far look decent, but it remains to be seen what comes out of that. So we will continue to check in with you and get your take.
Very good, Bill. Thanks.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Guys, it is about 8:56, which means we are, and again, I'm looking at monitors around the studio. So we're waiting for the next round of polls to close. Places like Michigan will be closing shortly. Some of those battleground states are closing, and as the night goes on, you start to see additional returns coming from those places. And as Bruce has pointed out throughout the evening, this is when it starts to get interesting, because we have said throughout this process, some have estimated that we may know something within hours, at least in terms of some of the battleground states and the trend or the direction it's going in. Others have said that if it remains as close as everybody seems to think it's going to be, it could be days that this process continues on. And that's why we're sitting here and breaking down some of the specific returns in places like here in Pennsylvania. The analysis of Philadelphia is very big, as Bruce was pointing out. If that advantage that currently exists, and it's very early in terms of the returns that are coming in from Philadelphia, but if that is indicative of the way Philadelphia voted, that is a significant, borderline historic, certainly a larger margin than we have seen in the past in Philadelphia, and that's laying the foundation for Vice President Harris. On the flip side, if you've got North Carolina, Georgia, some of those states that are mostly closed, Georgia had some delays, so we're waiting for some of those numbers to continue to come in. But if they go hard and in large numbers one way or the other, that can also be indicative of the way things seem to be trending. So a lot to watch, guys, which is why we continue to take you behind the scenes to check in on all the things that are taking place. We are going to go back in the studio shortly, let Bruce break things down, as we're about 2 minutes away from Michigan, Wisconsin, a couple of other places closing, places that we are watching closely. We're also going to go over and check in with Cam again and find out what you're talking about, tweeting about, hitting us up on social media. And remember, you can always do that, because fox29.com, all of the Fox 29 Philly social media platforms, the Fox Local app now on your phone. It was previously on just smart TVs and outlets, but now you can take us with you, so this coverage can go with you wherever you are. As we approach 9 o'clock, we're waiting right now for Andy Kim to come out. It's our expectation that he's going to be addressing the crowd shortly, and we shall see exactly what he has to say in a race that I don't know that it necessarily is surprising. Perhaps how quickly it was called is a little bit surprising. So we're waiting to hear from him. When he comes out, we will go right to him. We also are going to continue to check in with our reporters who are spread out throughout the area. So anytime they get additional information, they will update us and we will continue to go to them. And of course, we will take you through our first hour here on Fox Local is now just about complete, but we will take you through until 10 o'clock, and then we will continue the updates. Taking a look at some of the counting locations throughout our area. Montgomery County has theirs set up, several areas, and this is largely in response to some of the concerns and criticisms that have happened in the past about the safety or security of those areas, so they wanted to go ahead and show them. Andy Kim has just entered the room, so it appears he's going to be ready to speak. Marjorie's in my ear. Are we going to go to Andy Kim? Let's go take a look at Andy Kim's headquarters. Looks like he's about ready to speak.
Good job, bro. Thank you, everybody. Wow. Thank you, everyone. How are you feeling right now? I can't tell you how incredible this is. I'm having a hard time processing this moment right now. I'll be honest with you. There have been only a few moments in my life where I've felt the weight of the moment as I do right now. Like a gravity generated by the magnitude of the consequence in our country. It isn't about me. It is about this moment in America and what we each individually try to do to meet that moment. I look out in this room and I can tell you I see so many people from all different moments of my life. You are here in this room because in one way or another you have touched my life. You have helped me in ways I may never fully be able to express to all of you. Whether I met you in elementary school or on the campaign trail, I want to start by saying thank you. I want to start with my congressional team. For the last 6 years, we've served the 3rd Congressional District, and I hope that we have made the people of the 3rd Congressional District proud of the work that we've done. We have a team of incredible public servants of all different ages, everyone working together, many of them here, and I just have to say how proud I am of that team. To my campaign team, who carried out our message of change going forward. I know that many of you took risks to join this campaign. You had people doubt your choice to join this campaign. You worked long hours and struggled and stressed about the challenges we confronted. I hope you take pride in this moment. Whoever says young people don't care about politics haven't met the young people that are the engine powering campaigns all over this nation. And to our supporters, look what we've accomplished. Look what we've been able to do. By most standards of what is possible, this moment right now should not be occurring. A year ago, 6 years ago, few believed we could show that what we could accomplish.
And so we were just checking in, listening in on Andy Kim accepting that victory, going through or hearing a lot of cheers from his crowd. Behind the news here in the Fox 29 newsroom on Fox Local, more polls are closing, actually closed. We're a little after 9 o'clock, and people are continuing to tweet. Do people still tweet to X?
People still tweet to X.
All right,
or
people are
Twitter.
Xing.
Yeah.
They are hitting us up on social media.
Definitely on Instagram, I think, is the most poppin' right now. We are posting every single time, there's a race called or a winner in the area. So Delaware, New Jersey, PA.
I'm guessing that no other coverage had their Instagram page popping on their political coverage.
I'm not even worried about what they got going on.
We're doing things differently here on Fox Local.
Yes.
We're keeping it popping.
Yes. So she has. Kamala Harris has won Delaware. She has won New Jersey. I also wanted to mention, if it hasn't already been mentioned, there was a bomb threat at the Government Services Center in Chester County, and that's coming out of the Chester County Commissioner's Board of Elections member Josh Maxwell. He has tweeted that. He said that the bomb threat is being searched by dogs. If there's no bomb threat, I'll be back to you shortly. But obviously at this point, polls are closed, so that's kind of under investigation. We're not sure the length of the bomb threat or where it came from, but that is under investigation. I also wanted to mention that 2 poll workers were among those killed in an election day flooding that happened in Missouri. So as we are focusing on what's going on in our area, I think it is important to kind of know what's going on everywhere else on this election day. And so there's a massive flood that went on in Missouri, and rest in peace to those 2 poll workers who were tragically died in that situation.
So many things that you guys, and constant information is coming in, and trying to update, trying to keep things going on social media and on the website, while obviously having the appropriate respect for serious things like that. It comes from all sides.
Yes, we have millions of tabs open. We keep saying that amongst ourselves, just how much we're juggling at once, but it's kind of fun to know the history of the country, and this is all a part of the history, so it's cool to cover.
We'll come back and check in with you in a little bit. Guys, let's make our way back into that control room. We're going to check in with Shawnette Wilson, who is out and about in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware. Watch your step. I don't want us to fall on live stream. Shawnette's in Wilmington, Delaware. Let's go in here and check in with Shawnette. You see the whole team back in here, keeping everything going. Shawnette is there at, partying in Wilmington, Delaware, while keeping it professional.
That is exactly what we're doing here. I'm at the Chase Center in Wilmington, of course, at the Democratic Party here tonight. I'll give you a look at what's happening here. Some celebrations have already started. We had the party chair take that stage in the center of a room a little while ago to get everybody energized. We're expecting candidates from those 3 key races we've been talking about tonight to begin to arrive soon. I did see Democratic U.S. Senator Tom Carper here earlier. As we know, he is retiring, and the Associated Press has called the race for his seat. We've already announced that Democratic Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester will represent Delaware in the U.S. Senate, making her the first black woman from Delaware and the first woman to represent the state in the Senate. So we know that she's at another location, but we are expecting her to arrive here shortly and officially greet her supporters and hopefully give a speech here. Another race that could make history, the race for Congress, where Democratic Delaware State Senator Sarah McBride could become the first transgender person in Congress. She is facing Republican John Whalen III for that U.S. House seat. That race has not yet been called. We also expecting her here. We were initially told around 9:30. Also, the Associated Press calling the race for governor here, with Democrat Matt Meyer defeating Republican challenger State Rep Mike Ramone. Incumbent Governor John Carney, we know, cannot seek re-election because he has reached his term limits. A lot of people were surprised to find this out, but Bill, we know that he is actually going to be Wilmington's mayor. So staying in politics here, becoming the mayor of Wilmington, we're expecting to see hopefully all of them here shortly. He did not face a challenger in the general election, so he moved straight into mayor of Wilmington.
They're making history out there, and you can see that there is it's a festive atmosphere. But the folks feel like, are they recognizing the history that's being made?
You know, they are. That's a big part of those two key races that we've been talking about is the history that is being made. Lisa Blunt Rochester, you know, Senator Carper talked to me earlier about her, just talking about how she has really come up in politics and how he had nudged her to run for his seat and how just proud he is of her and all that she's accomplished. So that's a big one tonight, and we are expecting to see her here. A lot of people excited to see her here very soon. First black woman in 2 roles here.
I was waiting to see if you could incorporate Cam in her last hit, was talking about how our Instagram page is popping. We're changing the way we're doing political coverage. I was trying to see if you could work it into your description.
You know, it's so loud in here that I could barely hear when you were talking to Cam. You know, they got the wobble going on and a lot of other things going on. So it's a little bit hard to hear here.
All right, well, we will check in with you in a little bit. Thank you as always.
All right.
You take care, Shawnette. Here in TOC, you see the team that's keeping everything going. People who watch us on Fox Local, you're familiar with Chris. He's normally like ringing the bell, having out on our What's for Dinner segments. The rest of the team doing things. Thank you guys. We appreciate you keeping everything going. This is Fox Local, our You Decide coverage, election night, getting you updated on everything that's taking place. Let's take our next break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Behind the news here in the Fox 29 newsroom on Fox Local, taking you through Election Day. Again, walking through, seeing all the folks who are following everything, analyze everything, up-to-the-minute updates. This is the You Decide news desk, all in here taking things. We appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. And we're checking in with our reporters who are spread out throughout the area. We're going to check in with our Dawn Timoney. Marjorie, where's Dawn? In Bucks County? Dawn is in Doylestown. Hey, Dawn, how are you?
Yeah. Good, Bill. How are you? Yeah, we've been in Doylestown all afternoon. We were at a polling place there where they saw a heavy, heavy voter turnout. One poll worker said he'd never seen so many people turn out, and he has been doing this for 7 or 8 elections. Now we're over at the county administration building where they are tabulating the votes. So all the votes were tabulated at the precincts, and then they bring their materials over here. We just saw some folks unloading them. And then also inside this building are hundreds of election workers who are going through the mail-in ballots, at least 125,000 mail-in ballots that they've received so far, and that's not counting yesterday or ballots that were dropped off at the mail-in boxes. So they are going through that process, which is extremely, extremely grueling because they have to take the envelopes out and make sure everything is proper before they then scan it and tabulate the vote. So I did ask the County Board of Elections chairman when he thought they'd be done, Bill, tabulating all the votes. And he said that 4 years ago, it wasn't until Thursday afternoon that they were finally done. And he said right now, even though they have lots of help and they're working 24 hours round the clock, that is, of course, the $1 million question.
Interesting, because we're getting more and more updates and more reports, and places like that are likely to be very important. So that is, when people keep asking throughout the night how long this is going to take, that starts to get a little bit of an idea. So his estimate was could be a couple of days if those votes really end up mattering.
Yeah, but, you know, Bucks County is probably the purplest collar, Philadelphia collar county. So back in 2020, Joe Biden won with a little over 51% of the vote. So, you know, all eyes are here. This is a pivotal county, and I think that is also why we saw such heavy voter turnout here. People want to make their voices count, and they feel that they may actually help decide the next president of the United States.
It's going to be interesting, and as you were pointing out all day, Dawn, with very long lines in a vitally important area, we're going to hurry up and wait, right? So we'll continue to look for those updates.
Exactly. You know, everybody wants to know, when are they going to be done counting? And the flat out answer was, I don't know.
Well, you got to respect the honesty, right?
Right?
We'll stay on top of it. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate it. And part of the challenge, part of the reason, and Bruce was breaking it down before, part of the reason why there is such intense focus on places like Doylestown, where Dawn is, specifically Bucks County, is because it's so divided and split that ultimately places like that, those collar counties, because we don't know the margins, but you know Philadelphia is going to go one way.
Yeah, and they were saying it's like for Harris, turnout in Philly is the big thing. So if the turnout is big enough in Philly, but the counties we don't know, and some even like tiny pockets are the ones that are flipping back and forth. It's not even just like the whole counties that have in the past few elections. So it's wild, and you can see the interest in this election just from like the lines we saw all week in Bucks County for people getting their mail-in ballots, the lines in Jersey where people were waiting 3 and 4 hours to early vote. I mean, I've never waited in line to vote, and I waited in line an hour and a half over the weekend. So there's a lot of interest, and we're all waiting for these results to start coming in.
What's really interesting about it is with all of these lines, and we're hearing about potentially, like using the term like historic turnout in certain areas, it still hasn't given people an indication one way or the other the direction it's going, because it's historic turnout on both sides. So you kind of sit back and go, a whole lot of people are coming out, and they're evenly split.
And all the latest polls show a dead heat, like 49 to 49% on all the latest polls. And so that's what it is. It's who's coming out to vote. And, you know, exit polls show one thing or another, and you don't know. And it's not until the votes are tallied. And that's why, you know, Philadelphia city commissioners are holding a news conference right now about the latest tally that they've got going on. All these counties are giving their updates of, we're going to get this done. We are, you know, going as fast as we can, but doing it as fairly, as safely, accurately as possible. And it's going to take some time. I mean, I'm looking at a live stream right now. I believe
that's still the line.
This is still the line so I can pull this up, in East Hampton, Burlington County. this is still the line of people waiting to get in because they got in line. They did extend the hours in Burlington County until 9 p.m. tonight. But even as of 8 o'clock, people had been in line for 3 to 4 hours. And this is still, you can see this, 9:15, and these people are still waiting in line. I don't know when they had gotten in line, but when we talked to people at about 5:30 or 6, people have been waiting for 3.5 to 4 hours. And people are waiting this long to make sure their voices are heard in this election.
So as we're getting ready to take another break, but as you're pulling all this together and as it gets later, you're getting ready to put together our news throughout the evening. A lot of folks are going to be here till well into the early morning hours. So what are we're just watching constant updates, the vote count, and that's kind of the thing that we keep updating through the night.
Yes. So Associated Press is coming out with constant updates. We're getting constant alerts right now. We've got them from around the country as certain races are called, or like just right at 8 o'clock. We got New Jersey Senate and Delaware Senate. And so some of those races came in very quickly. Some of these are taking a little bit longer. And so we're just waiting each new update, each new dump of results that comes in, and our full screens and our graphics and everything updates. And you can see that ticker running at the bottom of the screen right now, and that's constantly being updated with every new vote total that comes in.
Folks, you may well see the Good Day team start coming in while we're all still here trying to figure out what's going on. So when you see Mike Jarek, Alex Holly, and the rest of them start walking in the background, you know it's been a long night. It's going to take a quick break. Fox Local, behind the news, election night, bringing you the results, keeping you updated. Thank you, Abby.
Of course.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. You decide. It's our Fox Local special, behind the news on election night, taking you around, keeping you updated, showing you the way everything is done here at Fox 29. Studio off there, we will go in a minute. Right here through the weather office, you can see there's Bruce Gordon, who is actively working on all of the map, the electoral map, and breaking things down. As I told you, when Bruce rolls up the sleeves, things get serious. You can see Sheba and Jason are in there as well, getting ready for the report. And so, fun fact for everybody watching. Right here, as you can see, we're in the weather center, the weather office, the weather authority. And I just asked them, can I speak to Kathy? Like Kathy Orr, we were just going to check in with her, see what was going on. Kathy Orr is apparently still in line trying to vote, where she has been for multiple hours because the lines are drawn out like that. So this is where Kathy would be spending some time with us. Hopefully she gets a chance to go ahead and vote and then can come on in. Right around here, as we're showing you a little bit of what's going on, another one of our control rooms here. She's yelling at me. This is Marjorie. This is Mary. That's Mary Ann from the Good Day After show. They're back here in this is our new and developing control room. So all the time that you've seen me throughout the show, when I'm grabbing my ear, looking crazy official, just being like, so Marjorie, where are we going after this? And sitting there doing that. That's Marjorie over there that I'm talking to. So just giving you a peek behind the scenes. Also, Miriam's on the other side behind Tom. You spit her out and give her a shout as well. So everybody's involved with us going ahead and get everything going here on this behind the scenes look at how we get everything going on election night. Let's go on into the studio. It's time for another update. Our anchors are here, going to give you all of the information about what's taking place. So stay with them, and then we will be right back after they give you that update. So stay with us. Fox Local behind the scenes, our You Decide special. Jason and Sheba coming up in just a second.
Now You Decide. This is a Fox 29 local election update. We begin right now with a live look inside the ballot counting and processing center in Northeast Philly. Polls have been closed for about an hour and a half at this point, and that means we are getting a somewhat better look at how the election results are shaping up. I'm Sheba Russell.
I'm Jason Martinez. In just the last hour, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro holding a press conference from Harrisburg to address reports of bomb threats at polling locations and municipal buildings across the state.
My team and I have been in direct communication with Pennsylvania State Police Colonel Christopher Parris, who is coordinating with local and federal law enforcement as well as PEMA. State and local law enforcement, along with the FBI, are investigating these threats, and thus far there is no credible threat to the public.
All right, we want to get to the race right now for governor in Delaware. The Associated Press calling the race for Democratic County Executive Matt Meyer defeating GOP State Senate Minority Leader Michael Ramone, 56 to 44% there.
And now the big one, the race for the president. Here are the results so far in Pennsylvania. With 25% of estimated votes counted, it has Kamala Harris with 56 to Donald Trump's 43.
A big highlight here, most of these vote tallies are from the mail-in ballots. We want to bring things over to our Fox 29 political analyst, Bruce Gordon, right now to take a closer look at some of these numbers, specifically in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. Bruce.
Yeah, Sheba, this is interesting. We talked about this earlier this evening, the idea that Kamala Harris needed to run up the score in a big way in the city of Philadelphia. The last couple of cycles, Democrats took Philly over the Republican by 475,000 votes, give or take. Here's where we stand right now. 17.6% of the expected vote in. That's almost exactly right around 1/6 of the expected vote. Kamala Harris's margin right now in Philadelphia, about 90,000 or thereabouts votes. If you do the math, you're at a margin of about 540,000 votes for Kamala Harris if these numbers were to hold. Now, I will warn you, they've been shrinking with each new update, but if that were to hold, that would be massive good news for Kamala Harris. As you pointed out, though, Sheba, Overwhelmingly, these are mail-in votes, and we don't know how different they will be from in-person voting. In the city of Philadelphia, I would not expect a massive difference, but again, if these numbers were to hold, this looks like good news out of the city of Philadelphia, at least for Kamala Harris. We will see.
Long way to go. All right, Bruce Gordon, thank you very much.
And we will be back at the 26-minute mark every hour throughout the night with more local updates. In fact, our next update is our 10 o'clock news
that's
here.
Right. And that comes up in about 30 minutes from now. We'll have the very latest voting numbers from around the area in our key races. Until then, you're looking live in Philadelphia as all the folks there are counting as we speak. Could be a late night in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. But again, we'll see you tonight at 10 o'clock here in about 30 minutes.
Fox Local, you decide. Here in the studio, you can see after they just gave you an update, there's everyone leaving the studio. This is the behind the scenes of everything that is taking place. Bruce Gordon, he's gotten more official now because the suit jacket is now on. He's got the I've been calculating numbers pocket square, and he's sitting back analyzing Pennsylvania. We're going to come back and go a little bit deeper into the numbers after we take this break. We'll be right back. Still be impressive. All right, guys, Fox Local, you decide special, behind the scenes, and you just saw kind of how all of this is happening. So Bruce is sitting here He's tabulating and calculating the numbers as we look at Pennsylvania and the votes that are coming in so far.
Yeah, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it's super important for whoever wins Pennsylvania. For Kamala Harris, for example, and this is clearly her strong area, Philadelphia, Bucks, Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester counties, she has to come out of this region especially with a massive margin. Well, in Philadelphia, 22% of the estimated vote total is in. Again, big margin here, massive margin. She appears to be about where I think she would want to be right now. Again, the other counties are part of the story as well. That's where Joe Biden did so well 4 years ago, and that's why he won Pennsylvania. Take a look at Bucks County, 18% or so of the vote in. Again, very early. We don't know exactly where within the county these votes are coming in from, and that's why I'm a little dubious about the idea of Harris being up basically 60-40. I would not expect that to hold in Bucks County, which is a 50-50 kind of a county. Okay. Montgomery County, 22.4% in. Montgomery County has been a massive Democratic stronghold over the last couple of elections. A big win for Joe Biden 4 years ago here. Delaware County, we'll take a quick look, 17% in, about 1/6 of the vote total there. Again, a big margin. Chester County had been really lagging and continues to lag, just 4.4% of the estimated vote total in. We don't know why that's the case. We just know that that is another likely Democratic victory for Kamala Harris in Chester County, but so far very few votes have actually been counted. Take it back to the electoral count here again. Don't get too excited, don't get too happy, don't get too upset about these electoral count totals at the moment, because none of this is a surprise. We've called now about half the states in the country, and not one of them represents a surprising pickup or a surprising defeat for one side or the other. We're still looking, as we've been talking about forever, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and of course Arizona and Nevada. Those are the states where it's really up for grabs.
We've got to be getting close at some point to getting some substantial numbers in North Carolina. Georgia is going to lag, as you pointed out, because there were some delays, some potential problems. But in North Carolina, it's interesting because it's very similar to Pennsylvania in that it matters what numbers you're getting, because some are just really strong one side or the other.
And look, this happens all over the country, right? Pennsylvania is a great example with big urban areas like Philadelphia at one end and Pittsburgh at the other end. A state like Illinois, where I've worked in the past, you've got Chicago and then what they refer to as downstate. Everything else is quite rural. Same with, Missouri. I've worked there as well. St. Louis on one end, Kansas City on the other, much of it rural in the middle. And so again, deep blue pockets, large swaths of rural red areas, and so it depends mightily on where the votes are coming in from when you say, wow, that's great news or that's terrible news with partial results.
We just spoke to Jeff Cole out in Scranton at the Casey headquarters. Yeah. He said that he called it nauseously optimistic.
That's a term Democrats have been throwing around as opposed to cautiously optimistic.
I was like, okay. But so the numbers, I mean, it's still fairly early. But at what point do you start looking at the numbers and go, okay, this is telling us something?
Well, here's the total right now, and it looks, as you can see, pretty good for Bob Casey, more than a quarter of the total vote in. I would note that when we see these reds and blues, that means that there are at least some votes that have been counted. When you see a gray county, that means nothing has come in yet from that county. And it would appear to me that at least much in this area is expected to be pretty deep red. And that means that Dave McCormick is likely to do quite well in these areas that haven't yet reported anything. So this margin may very well shrink. At the moment, though, Bob Casey has to be very happy with this. Again, just to be clear, a disproportionate number of the votes coming from Philadelphia, I think, right? So let's see. Let's see if that's
just populated.
Okay, 29. So basically 30% of the overall stayed in Philadelphia. Well, actually, I take that back then. Less from Philadelphia. So I will let me reassess then. Things are looking pretty good for Bob Casey right now. I would not expect to see a massive victory, but things are looking pretty good. If you're going to be optimistic, you might not need to be quite so nauseous if you were at Casey headquarters tonight. We will see, though. Lots of time left here.
At what point, we're going to continue watching this and following this, what percentage, and I guess that's hard to tell because the numbers can close up so quickly, but when you start getting, 70, Like when do the numbers start telling you if you're kind of following a trend?
Well, and look, folks who are even nerdier than I am and crunch numbers even more than I do will tell you that it depends. The answer is not a very satisfying answer, but it depends, right? You could have 90% of the vote in, but if the last 10% of that vote is in a deep red or a deep blue area, that can sway things and swing things dramatically, quote unquote, at the last minute. Again, it's not really a last-minute come-from-behind win, as you might see in a basketball game where you got a basket with 2 seconds to go to win. It's all a question of what order the actual votes are counted, how they're reported, and what order they're reported. So the short answer is you could be deep into this count, 90, 95%, depending on what's still out there, could change everything.
It's amazing how we sit here watching it, and it updates while we're standing here, and you see how quickly these things can change.
30% now in, yeah.
We will come back and talk to you in a little bit.
You got it.
Appreciate you.
See you in a bit, Bill.
Let's take a walk this way through the studio. Again, giving you behind the scenes. Watch these cords as we go through. Again, we don't want to fall on election night. Behind the scenes, the studio where we do the news. Good day. A couple other things are up here at this point. But let's go check in with our evening anchors, Jason and Sheba, and kind of find out their take on things that are going on. I see Sheba. Jason fled the scene. So let me grab this microphone. We will touch base with Sheba real quickly. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am good. So, everybody who's been watching, this is our evening anchor.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm going to lean down and chill.
Want me to hold
So
this?
you can, sure. So you've worked in a couple of different places. You were just talking about working in Atlanta and in Georgia.
Yeah.
When you're doing these things and covering these things, what are these nights like? You're just kind of sitting here watching returns.
I call it a marathon, and I'm one of those cautious journalists. I'm not big on us calling races and trying to get ahead of another station before the others. So the numbers I'm looking at right now, I think we just need to be reminded that these are early mail-in votes, absentee votes. If you've been watching our coverage a lot over the last few weeks, you know the warning from the Secretary of State that it is unlikely we'll have a result tonight. I think over the years, I've been covering elections for 20 plus years. Over the years, we've gotten used to these races being called so early, and even in other states, we're seeing them being called so early. But specifically these battleground states, it's going to take time for the results to be processed and for all of them to come in. Just one mail-in ballot takes like 1 to 2 minutes just to process. They got to take it out of the envelope. Some of these election offices have fancy ballot processing machines. Some do not, but you have to take it out. You have to straighten it up and then put it through the machine, make sure the machine doesn't ruin it, and then count it. It's a long process, and Pennsylvania has 19 electoral votes. We're a huge population center. People just need to be patient.
We've been hearing a lot of that, and it's hard to do.
It is.
When
It is.
The stakes are so high for so many people.
Ooh.
I'm going to fall live.
But just
saying
think, it could
all
be
night,
worse. It could be worse in other states.
Don't let him fall. I've been
Oh,
saying
really?
all night. And then I'm going to go down live, fall over this thing.
That's why I have my flats on right now. I didn't put my heels on yet. But, I mean, there are other states like Nevada, I believe, Nevada, for instance, where they have until Friday to receive and start counting their mail-in ballots. So it could be worse, is what I'm saying.
Patience, grasshopper. All right, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right,
you guys
no
are
problem.
prepared for a long night.
Yes, for the 10 o'clock news and then cut-ins after the 10 o'clock news is over.
Coming up, you stay with us. We will hand it off to them. Let's take a break. It's Fox Local behind the scenes. I'm going to try not to fall over this thing live. That would be bad. Stay with me. 9:45 here on Fox Local, behind the news, election night coverage, getting you all the information and updates. And remember, we're going to take you up until 10 o'clock here on Fox Local and then hand it off to Jason and Sheba and Bruce and the rest of the team that will continue to update you through the evening. So no reason for you to go anywhere. We've got you covered here. Our Jen Lee is in Pittsburgh, so we already checked in Scranton at the Casey headquarters. Jen is at the McCormick headquarters. And Jen, what's the mood like there?
Hey, Bill, it looks like it was going in and out a little bit, but yes, we're here in Pittsburgh at the Dave McCormick Election Night Watch Party here. There are a few hundred people who have filed in since doors opened just over 2 hours ago. Take a look, a lot of people here. It's been lively with this band that is playing, and throughout the night there have been some moments of pause where his supporters are watching the results come in for the presidential race and some of the other races that have been on the TVs here. Now I can tell you we have not seen McCormick yet. We have not seen the Republican challenger for the U.S. Senate seat here in Pennsylvania, but of course everyone here is hoping that he will take the seat from incumbent Senator Bob Casey. Now, we know that McCormick spent the day at various polling locations to thank his supporters and also to continue getting the vote out. There is a lot of media. We're here on the riser, so it is very tight because this is a really closely watched race, not only here in the Commonwealth, but throughout the nation, just to see how things will shake out for Congress. Now, McCormick, we can tell you, previously sat on Trump's Defense Advisory Board and in 2005 served as Undersecretary of Treasury for International Affairs. That was during the George W. Bush administration. And prior to his run for U.S. Senator, McCormick was the CEO of Bridgewater Associates. It's one of the largest hedge funds in the world, which is why he has really tried to brand himself as a businessman who can exercise fiscal responsibility and bring results for Pennsylvania in Washington. So, Bill, very loud in here, but it's been very lively, and depending on how the results continue to shake out, we'll see if it continues to stay upbeat.
Listen, it sounds like they're enjoying the evening. We will continue to check in with you when we get some official results, Jen. Thank you. We'll come back to you in a little bit. All right, guys, we're going to take another break. We're going to check in again with our Chris O'Connell, who is at the Vote Counting Center here in Philadelphia. And then 10 o'clock news is coming up. The hours are shooting by here on Fox Local. Appreciate you spending some time with us, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so we are approaching the wrap of this, but this is just the beginning of our coverage for the evening. Bruce, is Jason getting ready, heading into the studio. The team is going to take you as long as necessary until we have some information to go ahead and report.
Whatever it takes, as long as it takes, right?
There you go. I'll be at home watching. Like, you guys do wonderful things. I got your back.
Right.
Over the next couple of hours, what kind of points are we looking for? What markers? What are you going to be paying close attention to?
Well, again, some of these states, due to a combination of the fact that they're out west, maybe in Arizona and Nevada, in terms of when the polls close, that complicates things. In some other cases, you've had situations in Georgia where some of the polls were disrupted because of threats and so forth. So there was delays there in terms of when you would shut down the entire polling for the state. Some states, because of how they handle mail-in ballots, every state literally is different than every other state. And the 7 states that we really care about, that are these so-called swing states, are all a little bit different. So we've been hearing over and over again that it could be multiple days before we're wrapped up. Now, I must tell you, I've been through more of these election cycles than I care to remember, and it's not all that uncommon to say, well, it's going to be a long night tonight. Right. 2 hours later, everybody's wrapped up and gone home because the thing is already wrapped up and decided by then. So don't know if it's going to be much faster than we had been predicting, but the predictions all along is that this could be a multi-day event. And look, it takes as long as it takes to get the numbers right. Don't read into that someone is busy, using that extra time to sneak ballots in a pickup truck or something. It takes as long as it takes to count these things, and as we've discussed ad nauseum, mail-in ballots in particular are much more time-consuming in terms of how you have to handle them, literally taking out of multiple envelopes, you're flattening them so that they can be properly processed. It's time-consuming, and so it would not remotely surprise me if at least a couple of these swing states that may be determinative could be a couple of days from now. Again, we still hold out hope that North Carolina will give us some sense of something before this night is over. But in terms of anything we might know in the next hour, hour and a half, that's
probably not.
Yeah, not a whole lot of information that's going to say this is the definite winner here.
Well, and we started off the night saying that those, I guess, odd, unusual things could have happened. Right. There could have been a huge victory one way or the other in North Carolina, and that started a trend. We could have gotten a huge runaway in Georgia. That started a trend, and everyone went, oh, one way or the other, it's going. Pennsylvania numbers could have been off the charts so quickly. None of that has happened.
Right.
So it appears, at least right now, very early, that this is a long haul kind of thing. None of those markers we were looking for happened.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, back in 2020, let's take Pennsylvania for example, because that's where we're sitting right now. In 2020, it was a real clear delineation. Day of polling results were counted first. The mail-in ballots were absolutely later. It was a real clear demarcation, and so Republicans did very well in the day of voting, Democrats did very well in the mail-in balloting, and so you saw this big shift in the result. This time around, we got a very early chunk, not all of the mail-in ballots, but we got a big early chunk in the city of Philadelphia of mail-in ballots, and they were overwhelmingly Kamala Harris votes. Now, Philly in general is going to be overwhelmingly Harris territory, but these were a big chunk of mail-in ballots very early in the process. We're now starting to catch up. Last time I checked just a couple of minutes ago, 50,000 plus regular votes, if you will, day of at the polling place votes had now been put into the hopper in the total count. Just so we're all on the same page, about 740,000 or so votes came out of Philadelphia in 2020. Okay. So as you look at the results throughout the evening and you see the numbers for both Harris and Trump start to rise, take a look at that number that you see the total votes this time around, and you'll get a sense of whether turnout is bigger than 2020 or is lagging behind 2020. For Kamala Harris, she needs it to be bigger than 2020 to help her cause. For Donald Trump, he'd be more than happy if turnout was a little less than last time around.
All right, we will be watching this.
You got it.
I'll see you in just a minute.
My pleasure.
Thank you for doing this.
You got it.
Guys, he's not done. So we were just kind of giving you a look at all the things that are taking place. This continues on. As you can see, a little bit of the lull right here in the newsroom, because what's getting ready to happen is a lot of the people who were here that you saw over the last couple of hours, they were writing, they were researching, they were putting together all of the things for our 10 o'clock news. That's coming up momentarily. So those folks all go downstairs to control room, like the room that I just showed you. Quick look along these walls. that we normally don't do. These are all of the folks. Our managing editor, she's the person who was yelling out to us updates as they came in momentarily. She's got 10 different monitors, computer screens, and everything. FYI, both day continues on. Jody, our planning manager, who is doing much of the same. You see multiple monitors and information. Hey, look, Kathy Orr got to vote. So let's go say hi to Kathy as we wrap this up. So we were talking about Kathy, who has to like go and do her actual job because 10 o'clock, that's coming up. I see the voted sticker.
Yay!
It only took, what?
2 hours and 20 minutes.
In Jersey.
In Jersey, yeah. And they called the state, but everybody stayed in line.
I started to text you.
What's that?
I started to text you when they called the state.
Everybody stayed.
Okay.
Because they wanted to vote.
Committed.
I'm very committed, so I asked for 2 stickers.
All right, you earned them.
I earned them.
You earned them. Kathy is going to get the news going, let you know about the weather. Guys, that is just about a wrap for us. Seeing updates on some of the seats, by the way. That I see some of the contested seats. It looks like one of those seats that people were questioning. Bruce said that it was never in play, but some were questioning whether or not Ted Cruz would be able to hold his seat. He has, in fact, apparently, by reports. So next up, in just about 3 minutes, then Nevada polls will close. And then you have most of the battleground states closed, and then it just becomes a situation where you're just counting the votes, trying to figure out exactly when we will have the numbers. So stay with us. You've gotten a little look at what goes on here in the newsroom, the behind the scenes. Web team still going strong. Dan, people hit us up on social media and said that you're working too many hours.
I'm glad my boss is here to hear that.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so right, Alyssa's shrinking down as people on social media say, Dan's been here since the Good Day After show. So the folks care about you, just so you know. They're hitting you up. That's not going to get you out of here any earlier, but they care about you. It's all love. Guys, that is just about it for us. Our news director in here actively working on all of this as well. Another person who's been here since about 9 o'clock and might still be here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Mayor is the same. Our assistant news director, everybody came in about 9. And this is the commitment that we have to making sure we are giving you all of the information you need. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who helped pull this all together. We appreciate you. I'm not saying that you're done. You still got stuff to do. Yeah. Thank you, Abby. All right, let's head on into the studio. So, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Miriam. On the other side of the camera, making sure you got everything that you needed. Heading back into the studio one last time. It's time for the Fox 29 News at 10. It's hard to believe it's only 10 o'clock, right? All right, quiet. I'm going to take you into the studio. Fox 29 News at 10 starts now.